Hi Stampers! Today is our Friday finale and we're showcasing the hottest trend, the fractured card technique. In today's video, you'll learn how to create a one-of-a-kind masterpiece with the exquisite Masterfully Made Designer Series paper and just a touch of stamping with the Stippled Roses set. This card's perfect for Mother's Day, and guess what? It's easier than it looks. I'm Nancy Novak, your Stampin' Up! Creative Coach, and let's make this card. Okay, so the supplies we're using are a piece of Berry Burst cardstock for the card base. That's 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. And I have a 5 by 3 3/4 white piece. That's the part we're going to use for our fractured card. And then I have one that's 5 1/4 by 4, just a little bit bigger. Make sure you go back and check out my project sheet. I always include project sheets. You can find them on my blog, stampinshout.blogspot.com. There you will find the sizes, the supplies, the colors, and the shopping links for everything you need if you want to recreate this card yourself. Then I have some strips of the Berry Burst. These are 1/4 inch strips. And here is that pretty Masterfully Made Designer Series paper. I have used almost every single bit of this paper and I absolutely love it. So today we're going to use these fun colors. I love the lemon lime twist with the Berry Burst. I think that's really a bright and cheerful card. So again, we're going to create a Happy Mother's Day card, and this is called the Fractured Technique. Oh, I also have a piece of parchment paper and a little 2-inch white square. I'm going to give you a tip on how to cut out your dies using parchment paper. So let's go ahead and do that first. I want to cut out 2 sprigs. I already cut out one, and I saved one to cut out with you because I want to show you how to do it. So what you're going to do is you have your cardstock, and then you lay a piece of parchment paper down, and then you lay your die down. So that's cutting side down. And I'm going to run it through the cutting machine real quick. I'll fast forward so you don't have to go anywhere. And you'll be amazed at how quick and easy this just drops right out. I like to use this technique, not on all my die cutting, but whenever you have something very delicate and a lot of little intricate pieces to it. So let's see how this works. I'll be right back. Okay, so here it is. So it comes, pretty much falls right out. There's my die. There's my parchment paper. It's just so detailed with all these little branches, it kind of gets stuck, but it'll break away quite easily. So it didn't stick to the die. We just had to detangle it a little bit because of all the little branches. But wasn't that easy? That's a great little tip. I love it. Okay, let's bring in our 2-inch white square, and we're going to do some stamping on that. And I'm going to stamp with Berry Burst ink. And I'm going to bring a scrap piece of paper in because I'm going to stamp off. So I'm going to bring in the little rose with the leaf, the smaller image. And I'm going to stamp off a couple of times because I want a real light background of this rose on this card. You just have to make sure that we're stamping with the diagonal shape. You want the point of the square at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to stamp off, stamp off. So I have a very faint image of a rose. Now I'm going to bring my sentiment in, Happy Mother's Day, and I'm going to stamp in Berry Burst again. We're not stamping off this time. We want the full strength of the ink. And we're going to go ahead and stamp right in the middle of this square. Just like that. And it shows up so pretty. Okay, now for the fun part. So I'm going to bring in the smaller white piece. That is 5 by 3 3/4. And I'm going to lay I'm going to call it a diamond because it is kind of a little diamond shape. And I'm going to pop that up with dimensionals. So I kind of laid it in the top part, not right in the middle. And now we're going to bring our strips in, and this is where we kind of start the fractured card. So what you're going to do is you're going to start, and you're going to lay this strip down. We're going to glue it, but we're not going to lay it like this. We're going to start it right at the beginning of our diamond shape. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a thin bead of glue just like that. And I'm going to put this piece right here, just like that. Let it set for a second. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to trim it. Now I'm going to use this piece again, and I'm going to take it again to the top of my square, and I'm going to butt it up, and I'm going to glue it down just like that. So I'm going to put a bead of glue right there. So I butted it right up to the edge of that prior strip. I'm going to turn this over and trim it. Okay, now I have this piece, and it's not going to quite be long enough, so I have to bring in another strip, and I'm going to butt it up to that prior one. And take it right down off the paper there. Turn it over and trim it. And then this last piece, we're going to butt it up to the prior one, just like that, and let it go right off the paper. So I'm just going to put a bead of glue there. And trim it. So far, so good, right? Okay, now I'm going to bring in my little scraps of that pretty designer series paper. And this one is going to go right there, just fits in there. So I'm going to put some glue here and place it down. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to trim the excess off. So since the paper I'm using both sides, I can kind of look around my card and see where the next piece is going to fit and use up my scraps. So see, this one's going to be just a little bit too small to put there. So I'm going to bring this piece in because it's got some nice straight edges and it's easier to work with when you're creating the fractured card if you have some straight edges. Or you could, you know, straighten a couple of these edges off, but for video purposes, I think this will work out really good. So I'm going to go ahead and put that corner in there like that, put some glue down on the white piece, and then trim off the excess. If you don't want to take your pieces and kind of piece it together, you could measure, and I would cut a rectangle and then butt it in here and fit it. But I'm going to go ahead and use my straight edges here. So I'm just going to lay some glue right there on the white piece, lay my designer series paper down, and then trim off the excess. Now I'm going to bring this smaller scrap in and see if it fits somewhere. Nope, this side, sorry. See, this piece is going to fit perfectly right here. And the roses, if you want to make sure that since this is such a mishmash of roses, it really doesn't matter which way they're facing. I think it looks good either way. So again, this fits perfectly in there. So you basically need a nice straight edge of any piece that you're going to fit in. And you can use your scraps, or you can use a new piece of designer series paper, however you want. Or if you use a new piece, you're just going to cut it into a smaller rectangle to start. Like I said, about 4 1/4 by 3 1/4 or 3 1/2. But I like doing it this way. I think I'm using less paper. So far so good. Did all that make sense to you? It's really quite easy. I was really surprised when I first made mine, and I just think they're so much fun, and they look so interesting. And the paper, you can use all your little scraps up. So now I'm going to glue this to our just very slightly larger white piece. I just want to show you, you could just put it directly on here if you like. I just want a little bit of a white border showing though. Now I'm going to glue that to our card front. Okay, so it's pretty just like that, right? But I thought it'd be pretty with the sprigs in here too. So I'm not going to use the whole sprig. That's a little bit too much. So I'm going to cut it down and then just glue it in there. And since we popped that up on dimensionals, it'll fit very nicely right behind that Happy Mother's Day sentiment. So I just cut off 2 little pieces, and I'm just going to use that center piece. So these pieces I cut off, I was just looking, and I think I'm going to go ahead and kind of glue them up here to take up some of that white space that's showing on our little diamond piece there. So what do you think about the fractured card technique? Is that something that you think you're going to try? Leave me a comment and let me know. I'm curious. I want to know if you're going to make it. And here's our other cards that we made this week. Our pretty simple stamping card. I love it. That eyelet embossing folder is a must-have. Very, very nice. And then here we used the leaf and we cut it and we turned it into a wreath card. So there are your cards for the week. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think. If you're new, please subscribe. We'd be so happy to have you join us. I will see you next week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't be shy. Stamp and shout.